Hello, and welcome to this week's Movie Math, where now it's time to panic. Or is it? There's still a little bit of an out for Marvel and Marvel fans, at least publicly. We're going to talk about all this. This is a very complex, developing situation, and don't worry, I'm going to give you all the tea. I'm going to keep it real. All right, so thanks to the 0.4%, that Quantumania is shy of being in the 70th percentile, which, by the way, would have put it in the same grouping as X-Men Dark Phoenix when it comes to second weekend drops, and Gunn's The Suicide Squad. We're actually going to talk about Gunn a little bit later in this very video. But technically, Quantumania still has a 6 in front of its second weekend drop. So Marvel and Marvel fans can claim that this is still blockbuster business as usual. It's not great, but it's not unusual for blockbusters to drop anywhere in the 60th percentile. We're going to talk about Thor: Love and Thunder in just a minute. And I've seen some, when something's a 0.6 and you have to round, you round up. But I'm seeing some pundits and sites be very kind and round down to 69. Kite Man, hilarious call-out joke. All right, so anyway, see, Quantumania is now the worst second weekend drop ever for a Marvel movie. And we are seeing that headline, particularly earlier in the weekend when it looked like it would be, definitely in the 70th percentile. And it's just edged out Thor: Love and Thunder from just last year. Black Widow doesn't count because not only was the pandemic still in full swing when that film was released, but the movie was released day and date on Disney+. Scarlett Johansson sued over that release strategy and won. Well, actually, they settled, but that's a win for ScarJo. So we're talking, though, just a few percentage points difference here between the drop for Thor: Love and Thunder and Quantumania. And Thor: Love and Thunder still went on to gross almost $800 million worldwide. I still think $800 million is the threshold for what is a valid Marvel movie, but, that's my perspective. I think, and, still, Thor: Love and Thunder is in striking distance. So you're not going to see people you see some people. I think a lot of DC fans who are like, now it's your turn. Don't push it or it's not real. So it's still in striking distance of the $800 million. But also, if Quantumania, though, can beat out just Ant-Man and the Wasp's worldwide haul of 622.6, not a high bar at all, Disney Marvel can continue their very silly narrative that it's a franchise best, because they're talking about the Ant-Man franchise, not the MCU franchise. When did we start dividing these up by, mini franchises within the bigger one? That's ridiculous, in my opinion. All right, so anyway, I didn't see anyone giving that benefit to DC, right? They weren't like, wow, for a Shazam movie, that's amazing. They were like, look at what's happening. Oh my God, Rome is burning. All right, so, but that's Disney Marvel's public position. What's being said internally? I mean, week of release, when they got hit in the face with only their second Rotten Tomato, Kevin Feige was quick to announce a tremendous slowdown of the MCU pipeline, which had been turned on to full blast with the knob broken off by Chapek. But Iger screwed that knob back on. We're down to 2 Disney Plus series a year, it seems, Secret Invasion and Loki Season 2 for this year, with quite the backlog. My goodness, what a bench. What a bench. While The Marvels was pushed from summer to winter due to poor audience test scores, so Marvel wants to do yet another round of reshoots to avoid, another round of this kind of mess. I mean, everyone loves Paul Rudd, Jonathan Majors, and Michelle Pfeiffer, but with Brie Larson and Aman Vellani, that could be a Star Wars-level bloodbath of toxicity. And hopefully, not only does Disney Marvel not want them for themselves, but they don't want to do that to their actors. So while Disney Marvel refuses to admit defeat publicly, totally understandable, never let them see a sweat, I think behind closed doors, it's a downright sauna, considering the huge scheduling changes that have been made so abruptly. The next good sign, would be firing the Rick and Morty writers. And this past week, it was Quantumania and Kang Dynasty writer Jeff Loveness's turn to throw up flares. Sure to remind everyone, he is writing Kang Dynasty, because I'm sure he and his team are slightly worried that maybe he won't be. I'd have to say that would be a very welcome announcement. Go write some other stuff. You're coming off of big Marvel movies, but I'm very scared for anything that Rick and Morty writers are involved with. We gave them a fair shot. Look at their track record, man. And I mean, if Taika Waititi he's got a freaking Oscar. If he's still reeling from Thor: Love and Thunder, rumor has it that Star Wars is now looking to Damon Lindelof to save their movie, who redeemed himself with HBO's Watchmen. If Damon Lindelof is considered better than you, that's scary. Right? Well, though that could also be very encouraging that you can come out of the doghouse. You can come out. Watchmen was spectacular. But anyway, Thor: Love and Thunder still made bank and has a fresh tomato. So I don't imagine Disney will be calling Peyton Reed again anytime soon for any division. Didn't Iger say his 2.0 reign will be all about accountability? Well, we're going to hold him accountable to that accountability statement. So to sum it all up, as of right now, Disney Marvel can still publicly save face with these numbers. But there's sweat on foreheads and blood in the water, make no mistake. And we'll see where that worldwide total ends up. If it just gets above 622 point whatever, it'll be okay. So that's what it's got to do. Now, who dealt Disney Marvel this significant blow over the weekend? Universal. Oh, wow. Not only did their rated R horror comedy overperform for the weekend, it was expected to open just in the teens, but on Friday, it was the #1 movie. That's incredible. That is incredible. It really lit a fire under Marvel, who on social media all weekend long were like, make sure you go see the #1 movie in the world, please. And just goes to show how savvy Universal is right now, making them, they really just came out of nowhere. They've been running a steady race while Disney and Warner Brothers fight with each other publicly. And here comes Universal being like, hey, everybody, bye, everybody. They are a true competitor in the theme parks, becoming very aggressive in that space, actually. That's when you know someone's really winning. They start to become aggressive. And they're continuing to dominate in the digital space. 4 movies in the iTunes top 10 this week. And they're starting to make big moves in theatrical. Hey, where did Nolan go? He went to Universal. But anyway, they're making big moves in theatrical. They have 3 movies in the top 10 this week, with Megan just outside the top 10 at number 11. And don't forget, Universal is releasing 8 more films to go this year. They are busy because they don't mind sending them to digital in 17 days. And that doesn't even include their focus feature slate, which are very strong with awards. And getting into the live action adaptation business with How to Train Your Dragon, fast-tracked for a 2025 release. The only place that Universal is not doing so good, and boy are they not doing so good, is streaming. But in 2024, they're tipped to potentially purchase Warner Brothers from Discovery, which would be a big payday for Zazie and that guy who runs AT&T, because they have a lot of stock still. So it would help both those companies get out of debt, Discovery and AT&T, and it would be huge lucrative windfalls for all the investors, shareholders, which includes Zazie and the dude. So anyway, that dude's like, I'm so glad people aren't talking about me anymore. All right, so Zazzie's like, I'm excited to be in the rearview mirror too. At one point, Zazie wanted to be a Hollywood titan, but I think he'll just take the money and run. 2024 is when they're legally allowed to start shopping Warner Brothers around to a purchaser. And that would give Uni HBO Max, or whatever it's being called at that point, and whatever's left of it at that point. On that note, as much damage as Zazie can do, and it seems to be bigger than we ever dreamed or had a nightmare about, nothing can change the brands that are under Warner Brothers' umbrella. No matter what shape they might be in, and maybe they'll therefore be available at a discount. We'll see. But, they have to be a pretty good buyout price to make the shareholders money. But the brands will still be there to recover, including superstar streaming content producer HBO, which of course is driven by Casey Bloys, who just renewed, I believe, for a 5-year contract. He is definitely an executive that Universal would keep. Would the other be James Gunn? Interesting. Right now, Gunn won't even be able to get a movie out before the potential acquisition. I mean, it takes a while to close such an acquisition, but Uni would already be getting ready to maybe take control. So that script for Superman and casting better be real good. Uni better read that and be like, okay, let's see how this works out. The only thing Gunn is likely to get out any faster are his series that he has percolating. He's got the animated Creature Commandos, which is already in production, and potentially Waller could come out by then. But those are very Gunn, so they better do very good. I mean, the Suicide Squad and Peacemaker were very Gunn, and you saw how the Suicide Squad did. And Peacemaker, those numbers were never released, but they did say that it was the biggest HBO Max original ever on the service. But HBO Max has been on Nielsen for a couple of months now. You ever seen HBO Max original pop into the top 10? No. And sometimes the bar to get into the top 10 on Nielsen is ridiculously low. So that just goes to show you how bad all the HBO Max original numbers have been. HBO's holding that whole thing up, man. I hope the Waller numbers are great. I really like Viola Davis. I really like her take on that character. But, Gunn really has to get out of the gate strong if he's going to make whoever takes over Warner Brothers potentially. I mean, they might not sell it, but everybody in Hollywood believes that that's what they're doing. Zazie took it over to, get it into shape to sell. He wants to make sure he looks like as valuable as Casey Bloys. Casey Bloys is sitting pretty. He has so much content for next year's awards. It's like he has friendly fire. He has too many shows in contention. All right, back to Universal's latest wild card. It's clearly burning bright and fast. The cinema score is worse than Quantumania's, but you could argue that CB is technically a horror movie. So a B- for a horror movie is actually a pretty good cinema score. Those tend to be in the C range. But Megan is also technically a horror film, also from Universal, of course, and that got a B cinema score. And rated PG-13, Megan is very close, but it's not going to make it to 100 million domestic at the box office. So there's no way that CB will either. But thanks to Universal's ingenuity, CB will be on digital in just 17 days, where it's sure to dominate like the rest of Uni's recent slate. I think CB will really dominate on digital. Really dominate. Like, oh boy, you ain't seen nothing yet. And you've seen some impressive domination from Universal so far. Add to that the movie wasn't that expensive and has generated a ton of heat in the press and on social media, trended on Friday. Universal can continue to feel very good about the little factory they've got up and running with these wild card movies. Again, Renfield is next. But while CB will likely suffer its own big drop next weekend with just a 32.2 second weekend haul for Quantumania, well, that movie, I think with that second weekend, and it's going to drop even more in a third weekend, it'll almost certainly be dethroned by Creed 3 this coming weekend based on Creed's previous opening weekends. So that is a win-win for Jonathan Majors. But the big question is whether or not Quantumania will slide down just one spot to number 2, or will it go past CB to third place? Will it go to third place in its third weekend? Third place this weekend goes to Jesus Revolution, one of the biggest wins we've seen yet for faith-based films. This one coming from mini-major Lionsgate. Lionsgate's like, anyone want to buy me? And featuring none other than Kelsey Grammer, and with a much-needed win for the Fated Star as he gets ready to bring back Frasier on Paramount+. Another streaming service which is struggling outside of Yellowstone. Is that Paramount Plus or Peacock? Yeah, but it's still, they need a little help too. As movie studios continue to struggle against streaming, where Yellowstone is thriving, expect more and more of them to dip a toe in the waters of faith-based and conservative entertainment, especially when you see weekends like this. Any studio would love to have that movie in their portfolio. As for the rest of the top 10, no big changes from the past weeks, including Avatar 2 and Puss in Boots continuing to hold steady, posting amazing numbers week to week. In fact, Puss in Boots 2 has surpassed the domestic haul of both the first Puss in Boots and Sing 2, which was being used as a pace bunny, speaking of animals, for Puss in Boots 2's theatrical success. In fact, Puss in Boots 2 is the biggest domestic haul for DreamWorks Animation since the original Boss Baby back in 2017. And it's been a digital juggernaut, so it's just printing money. Oh, meow indeed. I'm so happy for that movie. It's so good. All right, I've been cheering that movie on for a long time. I'm so happy. Over on streaming, let's start with Nielsen per usual for the end of January. The Last of Us is holding steady at number 6 on the overall chart and number 3 on acquired. Remember, yet again, not its full viewership because it's divided between HBO and HBO Max. While Kenya Barris and Jonah Hill have a huge win with You People, the first movie to not only post decent numbers on streaming for weeks, but to top the overall chart. Wow, Eddie Murphy, with a strong assist from Julia Louis-Dreyfus, has still got it. And after weeks of embarrassing numbers for streaming movies, this was a good week overall. Shotgun Wedding also debuted on Prime Video, number 7 on the overall chart, number 2 on movies. Not as exciting for Jennifer Lopez, especially since that movie was supposed to be a theatrical release. But it could have been worse, J-Lo. You could have not made these charts. Meanwhile, Poker Face, debuting with 4 episodes to really help itself out of the gate, came just shy of the overall chart. Ouch. But did place number 3 on originals. The first big win for a Peacock Plus original on Nielsen's charts. Hooray! I think Bel-Air actually did pretty well now that I think about it. And Bel-Air season 2 just started, so we'll see where that ends up in a couple of weeks when Nielsen finally catches up. So far behind. But Poker Face couldn't make the overall chart even though it was number 3 on the originals. That's right. Still a little slow at the beginning of the year, with 4 entries in the overall top 10 being acquired shows. 5 when you count The Last of Us. And Disney Plus still needs to work on their originals. They're taking a little bit of a break. They're going for quality, not quantity. And they don't have a single entry in the overall chart or on the originals chart. Outside of Marvel and Star Wars shows, which have struggled with some of their recent entries, only the Santa Clauses was able to do really well. National Treasure and other stuff never was able to break in. I think National Treasure maybe was on there for 1 week now that I think about it. But it's been rough. On the acquired chart, they at least have Bluey at number 8, which of course just had a Macy's Thanksgiving Day balloon for the parade. And as usual, Disney Plus is the strongest in the movie space, thanks to the Disney Vault, with recent entries in Encanto and Moana. Thank you, Lin-Manuel Miranda. That's a very promising sign for The Little Mermaid. When we get worried about the quality of the visual X, damn you, Rob Marshall, let's just think about how strong Lin-Manuel Miranda is in the music department and how that could really help The Little Mermaid. That could maybe make up for weak VFX. He promised some new songs. I'm excited. All right, so anyway, as for Netflix, I'm excited again. That's very exciting. As for Netflix's charts, again, for just last week, this was for the week of Valentine's Day. So Your Place or Mine easily held on to the top spot, while The Woman King, another movie I've been rawing for, part of Sony's streaming deal with Netflix since they don't have their own streaming service. So after the pay window, they have to go somewhere, and they go to Netflix. It debuted with number 3 with solid numbers. I mean, not as strong as I would have liked, but hey, it's number 3 is number 3. I'll take it. Poker Face is like, yeah, but this is for the overall chart, man. This is for the overall chart. Over on series, You also continued to dominate as a different kind of Valentine's Day programming, this time bringing all 4 seasons into the top 10. I think the word is it has one more season, number 5, after part 2 debuts in just a week or so. But season number 5 will likely be the end of that show. And I think it's time. And a reality dating show, those have proven to be surprisingly popular on streaming. One thing Zazie got right. Remember, we were like, how is 90 Day Fiancé this popular? But it is. And this reality show debuted in 2nd place on Netflix. Over on iTunes, again, Universal, as I said, continues to dominate. Well, it looks like The Whale has finally found an audience. But is it too late for Brendan Fraser's awards chances? So far, he's only won the Critics' Choice. And Austin Butler has been surprised at winning all the other ones. We thought Colin Farrell was going to get it, but no, it's Elvis. We'll see who wins Best Actor at the SAG Awards tonight. That's right, tonight! We'll talk about it on the live stream tomorrow, the winners. As for this coming weekend, Creed 3 hits theaters again, while Guy Ritchie's new movie finally hits the domestic marketplace. Hey, those of you overseas, was it any good? The movie was delayed here because it features Ukrainian gangsters as bad guys. And India's RRR returns to theaters in a limited release as part of a fan celebration. As for movies on streaming, Disney Plus has the documentary Finding Michael, also from the UK, by the way. And again, tonight, as I said, the SAG Awards airing right here on YouTube. Oh boy! And again, we'll be going over the winners on tomorrow's live stream. And speaking of digital distributors trying new things, Netflix has their first ever live comedy special this coming Saturday featuring Chris Rock, and it will stream at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. No word. They haven't really made it clear as to what the benefit of a live show is. I don't think Chris Rock's going to mess up. I've seen Chris Rock live. He's incredible, but I don't see how it would be any different than a taped live show. No word. I think it becomes available the next day to watch if you don't catch it live. But, what the heck? Why not tune in live? It's something Netflix is trying with a very strong comedian. Chris Rock, so funny. As for shows, The Mandalorian returns on Wednesday. This Wednesday with season 3. I'll be doing weekly breakdowns, and considering that Disney and Lucasfilm have been radio silent on season 3 with just a teensy-tiny bit of promotion, let's hope that's because it's full of awesome surprises. Oh boy! Then on Friday, Prime Video has Daisy Jones and the Six, produced by Reese Witherspoon, starring Sam Claflin. Why didn't his career ever work out? He's so great. And speaking of Elvis, it also co-stars Elvis's granddaughter, Riley Keough. And that's this week's Movie Math. What have you been watching? I have to say, by the way, kudos to her for not going with Presley. She could have, She could have tried to capitalize more on that. So, and she has a pretty solid career. Maybe it would have been better if she was Riley Presley, but if only that had been her middle name, then she could have just dropped the Keo and been Riley Presley. All right, so anyway, and that's this week's, what do you think she should have done? All right, and that's this week's Movie Math. What have you been watching? What do you plan to watch? What do you think of Quantumania's second weekend drop? Are you going with 69 is still safe? That's a funny thing to say. As well as Universal continuing to dominate. Share your thoughts down below. Subscribe today. And of course, as always, you can check out some more videos right now.